Welcome, YouTube, to the first episode of Dad by Daylight. In this series, I'll be discussing what it's like to become a dad, from the decision to become one, to trying to conceive, to Madeline, my wife's pregnancy, all the way to becoming a stay at home dad that I am now. I'll be discussing all the best advice I got and the advice I would give to other people as I'd have moving forward. During that time, you'll get the absolute joy of watching some very, very mid Pyramid Head gameplay. Especially with the anniversary going on, it is stunning. So please sit back and grab some popcorn and enjoy. And won't you join me in the fog as I discuss being a dad? Well, hopefully, Introduction Me did an amazing job of explaining why we're here today. And that is to discuss the decision that Madeline and I made to have kids. And this was a weird one for us. We had spent our whole relationship and previous to our relationship just being completely uninterested in children. Part of that comes from just, being somewhat career focused, even though I will say, no matter who, no matter what, in my opinion, work always stinks. So being career focused is sort of a weird thing, but that's just how it was. You just need money to live. So that's how a lot of our focus was. And not only that, we were really happy with each other, to be, honest, which was awesome and great. And so why ruin a good thing? We're really happy. Why throw some insane variable into the mix that both of us just weren't ever really passionate about? We would periodically check in, mostly jokingly, like, "Do you still not want a kid?" "Nope." LOL, smiley face, and that's it. And so that was just, I imagine, going to go on maybe forever until Madeline's twin brother's wife, our sister in law, fell quite ill. She has an autoimmune disease and got was undiagnosed at this point and got really, really sick to the point of literally wondering if she were on her deathbed. And when this was happening, she had a child, our nephew, who was 3 years old. So our sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and nephew all came down, and our sister-in-law was pretty much in the hospital for a year and a half. Some of those stays extended for upwards of 6 months. Really, really sick. And during a lot of that time, we watched our nephew. Now, luckily, spoilers again, she's fine. Everyone's healthy, everyone's happy, they're all back home. But during this sort of trying time, we were watching our nephew. And during this time, I really started to see Madeline in a different light. I saw her caring for a little 3-year-old guy. I saw her raising a little 3-year-old guy. And I just saw her being in a completely different person than I knew. I knew her as a loving partner and great, worker and great boss and leader. But now I was seeing her as an amazing mother and having a different kind of care and tenderness that was completely unique. And I was like, wow, this is really cool to see. Is this something I want for my kid, a kid for me, for us? And so as that time kind of went on, that really, that whole year and a half really stuck with me. And then after everyone left, my sister-in-law got better and they went home. That stuck with me for about 3 months. And I was going to ask, like, should we have a kid? And asking it in earnest is scary. I'm not going to lie. It was something that, again, we had always said no. And I didn't want to and I didn't feel like at this point it became a deal breaker for us. I wanted to have a kid with her. I didn't want to just have a kid. It was seeing her like that just made me like think, wow, I really would like to have a child with this person. And so I brought it up. I said, do you think we should have an honest discussion about having a kid? And she was a little shocked that I would bring it up, but she was kind of having the same thoughts. Should we have a child? Is this something we want? Because she really enjoyed, I was sort of the fun uncle for our nephew, and he thought I was just the funniest guy. Guess what? If you call Scooby Doo Scooby Don't, they love that. And that was a joke that had legs. I was the funniest person on earth when I told that. And just little things like that made her see me in a different light, which was really interesting. So we decided that yeah, maybe we should have a discussion, and we were always for very large decisions in our life using the ancient Persian method of the double discussion, once drunk, once sober. So a couple days later, we decided to have some vodka tonics and discuss like, do we have a kid? And discussion went a little bit, like this is just we both really, really loved watching our nephew. It was really interesting seeing us in completely different, each saw each other in completely different lights. And not only as, partners again, but as like parental figures that were really, gentle, loving, caring in a completely different way that we had never seen each other before. And during that time, we also realized we communicated in a different way, a lot more open, a lot more free, because someone relied on us. Someone's, for lack of a better way to say it, like his life was in our hands. If we were bad, we could change the course of his life, and we obviously didn't want to do that. We wanted him to be happy and healthy. And so we discussed every little small, oh, should we have, we had mac and cheese yesterday, so let's make sure we try to get some vegetables in that food, or to big things like, oh, he's asking questions about his mom's illness. Like, how do we talk about this? She's really sick. And luckily, we were able to talk amongst each other and talk with his parents and, relay that information to him in a way that was, matter to him and matter to his parents. And so we talked about that. We also talked about, in our opinion, the world that we live in is a bit ass. And so, what's it like to bring someone into this world that is really, really hard? And this is, on an emotional level, this is like, it's hard to see what's happening in the world and be like, oh boy, I cannot wait to add another person to it. And we discussed that for a while. And I think the general feeling in the end was, well, if everyone thinks that, like, oh, the world sucks too much not to bring someone into it, then the world's just going to keep sucking. And maybe if we bring in a person to the world and we raise them to be a good person, maybe that will have a positive impact on the world. It's honestly maybe the best we can try, besides just being active and being out there ourselves, is to raise an active and good person. And so after the discussion, we both thought, yeah, this is kind of something we would want to do. We both feel ready for it emotionally. We both feel ready for it as a partnership, and it just felt really good. And so we went to bed knowing that after the drunk discussion. And then came time for the sober discussion, which is never quite as fun as the drunk discussion. But I essentially, because this was, just kind of the way I often do things, is I wanted to do a pros and cons list while sober, which is pretty lame, I'm not going to lie. But I thought it would help us at least think of things more rationally and more clearly. And so the first thing is, was this even economically viable? And luckily, into the pros lists, yeah, we think even on one income, which, hint, hint, that's going to be coming in the future, we could afford this. We would have to, really tighten the belt on one income, but it was actually possible to do. And that, incredibly lucky to be able to think and do that. And not only that, both of us grew up pretty poor, with working parents, and we understood that sometimes you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and work hard and lean on your family for things if absolutely needed. And so we would be able to make it work economically. And also, which was nice, is Madeline's family was near us. Now, I'm from the East Coast. We live in the Bay Area, so my family's not very close. But Madeline's family is in the Bay Area, a large portion of it. So we would be able to rely on family if we absolutely needed to. And so that was really another big pro in the pros list. Not only that, we just really enjoyed seeing each other in the light that we had. And we just loved seeing each other as parents, as people who could raise a person together. We felt we had already discussed a little bit of how we feel we would raise a kid, although we would be doing a lot more research into it. And we felt really happy with what we had discussed while drunk, and that seemed awesome. Now, for the cons list is, things can just be hard. You don't want to just go into something thinking like, oh, this is be awesome. We have had so many stories. Our nephew when he was a baby was extremely colicky. He would cry 14 hours a day for no known reason for about a 3 to 4 month period. I don't know if I could have mentally withstood that. That sounded really tough and really scary, but again, it's not super common, although it was maybe in the family. And so, that was honestly the unknown was the biggest, con. And, for us, you can't just make decisions on the unknown because you're just making decisions on fear. And that's the way we kind of ended the discussion is like we have some concrete pros here. We have the desire is there. It is economically viable. We have family around to support us. We feel like this is something that we really want and are really interested in. And our cons are really just fear for us. They're just things that we don't know, we can't control. And I mean, for better or worse, that is a lot of what life is just like you can't know everything, you can't control everything. The best thing you can do is work through it and work with what is in front of you. And so after that long discussion and a lot of sort of like, you're sort of deciding like, yeah, we are gonna do this, and it's sort of you're getting a little teary-eyed, you're feeling like, whoa, this is gonna be like really different, and we're gonna be potentially really different people in a couple years or so. We decided like, yeah, it is time to start trying to have a kid. And so from that point on, we had decided we're gonna do a little research, and within the next few months, Malin, she had an IUD at the time, so she would have to get that out. And then there's about a 3 month waiting period of viable ability to even have kids. And so then we would have to wait a little bit, but you know, right after that discussion, Malin was like, "All right, I'm making an appointment to get the IUD out," and we just started doing research on how best to try to have a kid and what raising a kid would be like. I know I said try to have a kid like it's just something that's natural, which it is, but it's a little different when you're specifically trying, which is what we'll be getting into next episode, the TTC or trying to conceive portion of our journey. But the decision was made. We were happy. We were scared. We thought that maybe, who knows what's going to happen with our lives. We sort of were a bit cagey about telling our families because we just are, we hold things close to our chests a little bit. And we had a feeling that, maybe things when they had gone well and everything went forward and things were actually happening, pregnancy was going on, then we tell people we were trying and we were succeeding. But in terms of, we just told our super close friends, and that was it. And so that was the decision. That is how we made it. And now we're going to be moving on to the trying to conceive portion of the fatherhood journey. So thanks for joining me for this introduction to why I became a dad and what that has meant to me. And I hope that you've enjoyed my absolutely middling Pyramid Head play. And hey, whoa, great job, me, 4K. Well, hopefully we'll be seeing you soon in the next episode. Bye-bye.